Hello everyone. Since this class will require us to use Microsoft Project, I wanted to take a few minutes and show you the basics of using this application. This video will help you to complete the Week 3 Microsoft Project assignment. So let's go ahead and get started. In Week 1, I had created a video tutorial that helps you to install Citrix, which is a remote access application, in order for you to be able to access Microsoft Project. And if you haven't watched this video or installed Citrix yet, then please go back to that Week 1 video because Citrix is a requirement to use Microsoft Project. Unless if you already do have access to Microsoft Project, then you may skip the Citrix install step. So when we open Microsoft Project, you're given the options to open a blank project file, or you can open an existing project file, or you can choose from any of these templates. And for this video demo purposes, let's start with a blank new project file. Now this is the default view when you open up a blank project file. And let me walk you through the main parts of this interface. The majority of the screen is taken up by these two areas. The table on the left is the WBS, or the work breakdown structure. And this is where you will have all your tasks, their duration, the start and end dates, and if there are any predecessors for these tasks. I can also click and drag this dividing line to show more columns. So now you see that I have another column called resource names and an empty column to add. So for example, if I click on this column header, I get a list of all the pre-existing columns that I can add. So say I want to add a cost column. I just start typing the word cost and I get a few options. Then I choose the one that I want, which by default is cost. Then I just hit enter, and now I have a cost column added. I can also move columns around. For example, let's say I want to move the cost column to be between the finish and predecessor columns. I simply click on the header name of the column I want to move, which turns my cursor to 4 opposing arrows. Then I click and drag the column. And see there is a gray T line that shows the placement of the column. And when you're ready to drop the column in the place you want, just let go of your mouse and voila, the column has been moved to its new location. Okay, let's now talk about the right side space of the WBS table, which is the Gantt chart. But let me move the dividing line a bit to the left again. So the Gantt chart is just a graphical representation of what's in the WBS table. Any task you add on the left side will show up as a graphical view on the right side. For example, let me create a task as an example. So let's call it demo task 1. And let's give it a duration of 6 days. As soon as I hit enter, I see this task as a nice colorful bar in the Gantt chart. Now by default, if you don't specify a start and finish date for the task, Microsoft Project defaults the start date to be today's date, and then calculates the finish date based on the duration value that I just entered. So since that's what I did, meaning I didn't enter a start date, Microsoft Project set it for me as May 21st, which is today's date. Now you can customize this blue bar in the Gantt chart. If I double click on it, a dialog box will open. You can see that you can customize the look of the bar by tailoring how the beginning of the bar looks like, how the middle part looks like, and how the ending part of the bar looks like. And in the bottom part of the dialog box, you can see a preview of what the bar will look like. So currently, the bar preview section shows that the bar color is blue and that it will show the person's name who's responsible to carry out that task. It shows it on the right side of the blue bar. So if I change the color of the bar, it will show in the preview section what it will look like. And if I change the pattern and change the shape, then if I'm happy with how it looks in the preview section, I can just press OK. And these changes will show up in my Gantt chart. And if you don't like what you see, you can simply press on Ctrl Z if you're on Windows, or press on Command Z if you're on a Mac. and the changes will be reverted right back. So please don't be afraid to experiment with this application. You could always undo your changes. Now let's double click on the bar once again, as I want to show you the second tab in this dialog box, which is the bar text. This tab allows us to customize the text that shows up around the bar in the Gantt chart. And right now, it's set up to display the name of the resource to the right of the bar. But as you can see, you can show information to the right, to the left, top, bottom, and even inside the bar as well. So for example, if I wanted to keep the resource name on the right and add the cost inside the bar, I can do this. Then I hit enter, and you see the changes right away in my Gantt chart. Now the cost is 0 because I didn't assign costs yet. And I also don't see a resource name because I didn't assign one yet. But in a few minutes, I'll build out the entire WBS for you and show you all these details. Also part of the Gantt chart is the calendar and days of the week up here. So you can see that my demo task 1 starts on Friday, May 21st and continues for 6 days. And if we count these days, they are day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It seems that the Gantt chart is showing 8 days and not 6. Well, notice how we have gray areas or gray columns in the Gantt chart? These are non-working days. So you can see that Saturdays and Sundays are non-working days, so they are grayed out, and they don't count towards the duration's length. So even though the graphical representation shows the bar as spanning 8 days, only 6 days are working days, while 2 are non-working days because they are weekend days, and we don't work on weekends. Now this leads me to another important topic. How do I modify the working days of my project, and how do I add holidays to my project as well? Well, if we click on the Project tab up here, then click on Change Working Time up here, a dialog box appears. From here, you can see that the working days are set in white, and the non-working days are set in gray. So let's say we want to change our project to be a 7-day work week project. I simply click on the Work Weeks tab, then Details. Now Sunday is first highlighted and it shows no working hours. But if I click on any of the typical work days, I see working times. So what I want to do now is click on Saturday and Sunday, then this radio button option to set both Saturday and Sundays to working days, and I'll set the hours to be 8 to 5. Then when I'm done, I can click on OK. And now you see from the calendar that all my days are now white and no more gray dates. And if I click on OK again, you will see that my Gantt chart doesn't have any gray columns and that my demo task 1 bar has been shortened to 6 days exactly because it doesn't have to accommodate for the 2 non-working weekend days. Okay, let me go back to the same dialog box again because here we can also add holidays. So let me add Memorial Day, for example. And when I click on OK, you can see that my Gantt chart has now grayed out that day since it's a holiday. And the last thing I wanted to show you in the Gantt chart section is the zoom slider at the bottom right corner of the screen. This control allows you to zoom in or out of your Gantt chart to see your project on a daily level, a weekly level, monthly, quarterly, or even yearly level. Okay, another part of this interface is the timeline up here. This basically shows you the key tasks on a timeline. And my personal preference is that I don't use this timeline option, and so I choose to hide it. And the way I do that is by going up to the View tab, then I click on the Timeline checkbox, which allows me to have more real estate space for my WBS and Gantt chart. Again, this is a personal preference of mine, and you may certainly use the timeline as you wish. All right, at this point, I'll press Control N if you're on a Windows machine, or Command N if you're on a Mac, so I can start a new project file that is more geared towards the Week 3 assignment. Up until now, I've just been giving you random examples and explaining the interface. Now the assignment is asking us to create a WBS for the phases and tasks of either the MAA or the Husky Air projects. So I'll make a sample project that fits either projects so you can understand what I'm looking for on this assignment. I'll start first by entering the phases and task names. So on line 1, I'll type initiating, since all the projects start with an initiating phase. Then under initiating, I'll type a couple of tasks that are typically found in this phase. So I'll type create project team, then hit enter. Then I'll type develop project charter, then hit enter. Then I'll type planning, which is a typical second phase of any project, then hit enter. And under the planning phase, I'll type develop scope statement, then hit enter. Then I'll type develop and refine other plans. Then I'll wrap up the tasks with the remaining project phases. Now this is just a sample of the tasks needed for this project, and your list of tasks will be more than just these few lines, but I'm only doing this short list for demo purposes. Alright, now once you have entered all your tasks, you need to organize them. The best way to think of this is like an outline of a paper, where you have chapters, sections, and subsections. So the first thing to do is wrap up all these tasks into one project. So I will click on the Format tab. Then in the Show Height section, I will click on the Project Summary task. See how this created a task on line 1 of the WBS, and then it indented everything under it. It also created an expandable and collapsible arrow next to it so we can collapse and expand the view. Now I need to continue to format the tasks and organize them in the outline form. And I do this using the indent and outdent icons. To see these icons, let's go back to the Task tab, and you can see the indent and outdent icons here. Let me first double click on this dividing line so I can expand the width of the column to see the names of the task in full. Now, I know that these two tasks, create project team and develop project charter, are part of the initiating phase, so I need to indent them. And I can either do this one task at a time, or I can highlight multiple tasks and apply the indent to them. For example, I'll highlight these two tasks, then I click on the indent icon, and now you see that these two tasks are under the initiating summary tasks. So any task that has subtasks under it, we call this task a summary task. So initiating, planning, executing are all considered summary tasks. Now let me do the same to the planning phase task. I'll highlight the tasks, go up here, click on the indent. There we go. Now say I forget to add a task under my executing phase. I simply click on the task after the executing summary task line. Then in the insert group in the ribbon, I click on the insert task icon. And now you see a new task has been added, and I'll call it exec task 1. And since I want this task to be indented under the execution phase, then I'll click on it, and then I click on the indent icon. And to delete a task, you simply right click on it, and from this menu, choose delete task. The next thing I need to do is set the duration for each task. And you need to set it for the tasks and not the summary tasks because these are set automatically based on the total of the individual tasks. So let's say I estimate that the task create project team takes 1 day to complete. I'll click on the duration cell for this task and I'll type 1, then hit enter. By default, the number is the number of days, but you can type HR for hours, or W for weeks, or MON for months. There's also MIN for minutes if you want to be very detailed. Now, for the task develop project charter, I'll estimate 2 days for it. Again, this is just for demo purposes and for your assignment. Please make sure that you estimate your own task durations. Now you would think that if the task create project team is 1 day in duration and the task develop project charter is 2 days in duration, then the total initiating phase duration should be 3 days, right? But it says 2 days. The reason is because if you look at the Gantt chart on the right, it shows that they both start on the same day. But these two tasks should occur in sequential order, meaning we first have to create the team, and once the team is created, we then can start to work with the team to create a project charter. So this will introduce us to the concept of predecessors and the type of predecessors. So basically, a predecessor is like a prerequisite. For example, a task cannot start until another task has been completed. I mean, say in a housing project, we can't build the basement before digging the ground up first, right? And in Microsoft Project, the default type of this predecessor relationship is called a finish to start relationship, or dependency if you want to call it that as well. So just like I said in the housing example, one task has to finish first before the other task can start. And the other types of relationships are called start to finish, start to start, and finish to finish. But again, the default in Microsoft Project for task relationships or task dependencies, the default is finish to start. So there are a few ways in Microsoft Project to set predecessors. One way is to enter the task number in the predecessor cell. So let me first expand the dividing line so I can see more. And since I want the task of create project team to finish first, in order for the task develop project charter can start, then I click on this cell. I type the number of the task ID and I hit enter. This action triggers two main changes. The first change is that in the Gantt chart, the two blue bars of these tasks now have a connecting arrow to explain the relationship of finish to start between them. If you missed it, let me go back and do Control Z, and now you can see how they were before I added the predecessor. And now let me do a Control Y to see how it looks after the predecessor was added. And also by adding this predecessor, notice how the duration of the initiating summary task also changed to a total of 3 days, which is the expected result. Now let me undo this change again by pressing Ctrl Z or Command Z, and I'll show you another way to create this relationship. In my Gantt chart, I can simply click and drag the top blue bar to the lower blue bar until I see a line and a link icon. Then I let go, and now I see the same arrow link and predecessor number in my WBS table as well. And I'll press Ctrl Z again to undo this predecessor option one more time so I can show you a third way to add predecessors. I'll double click on the task and this task information dialog box appears. It contains several tabs that help customize the task. And there's a tab for predecessors. I'll click on the task name, then the pull down arrow, and choose the task that I want, which is create project team. And this automatically fills in the task ID for me. The default relationship type is finish to start, but I can also change it here as well. And finally, there is a lag column. Lag is just what it means. It's a lag time or delay time. So if for some reason you don't want to start the task right after the predecessor finishes, you can add a lag time here as you wish. And since I'm done now with this predecessor data entry here, I can now click on OK, and now you see the same effect again. So as you saw in Microsoft Project, there are multiple ways to do the same thing. Now let me go ahead and finish entering my duration and predecessor data for the rest of these tasks. So this is what my sample project looks like. Yours will be quite different because it will contain more tasks. And as you can see, I now added more tasks, gave them durations and predecessors. I can also use the zoom slider to better see my Gantt chart. And also notice this task mode column here. This tells us if a task is scheduled manually or automatically. By default, all tasks are scheduled manually, and the rule of thumb is that we schedule summary tasks as auto-scheduled, while the individual tasks as manually scheduled. Now, part of this assignment's requirement is to add resources to my project. I also need to give these resources an hourly rate, then assign these resources to actual tasks, and in doing these steps, I will eventually have a project budget. So I'll click on the down arrow under the Gantt chart icon, then choose Resource Sheet. Here I can specify my team and their hourly rate. And you can type names or you can type job titles, so it's really up to you. I will start by typing Project Manager and hit Enter. Automatically, a few things are populated for us. For example, under Type, we see Work, Material, and Cost. Work is basically people or equipment. Material is any consumable goods like paint and wood, if you're on a housing project. And finally, cost is any expense associated with a project like travel expenses, food, lodging, car rental, and so on. And since project manager is a person, then I'll leave the type as work. For the initials column, I can change that to PM. For the max percentage, 100% means one person of this resource. So 100% of project manager means one project manager working full-time. And if I want to add a second PM, then I can make this value 200%. And last but not least, I can set hourly rates for this person, say 150. And now let me add a few more people. I'll start by adding team member 1, keep it at work, and give him a value for the hourly rate. I'll add a second team member 2, keep him work, TM2, give them an hourly rate. And a third person, TM3, keep it as work, TM3, and hourly rate. So now that I have added my resources and assigned them an hourly rate, I can now assign them to my existing tasks. I'll click on the Gantt chart icon up here so I can return to my WBS. And now for each task, I need to click on the resource name cell and assign a resource or assign more than one resource to that particular task. And now since I assigned resources to tasks and each resource has an associated hourly rate, I can simply go ahead and add a new column, which is the cost column, to reveal my full project budget. So I come here and click on add new column. I start typing cost. Here it is. Hit enter. And now we see my budget for this project. So again, I created this sample project for you as a demo to show you how to use Microsoft Project and the basic skills needed to maneuver within this application. Now, your own project tasks for this assignment will be different than this demo, but the concepts are the same as in this video. You will need to build your task list, which is your WBS, and this is based on your task list for either the MAA or the Husky Air project. Give each task a duration, a start and end date, and set predecessors, as well as resources. And in my humble opinion, this will be a great way to practice using Microsoft Project. And please don't worry if you make any mistakes, as you can always undo any changes by pressing Ctrl Z or Command Z on your keyboard. And even if you submit your project with a few mistakes or missed steps, I'll provide this in my grading feedback and ask you to make the needed updates and then resubmit your assignment once again. So I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at any time. Good luck with this assignment, and thank you for watching. Bye for now.